Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Sabu Steve's Wrestling Time Machine. Go ahead and buckle up, and we're going to start wrestling's history. We are going to start with the 1 week, starting with January 1st, 1970, up until the 7th of that week. We're going to go to several different places in the wrestling community. We're going to even stop by in Honolulu. We're going to see what's up in the AWA. We're going to see what's up in the WWF, along with other stops during the tour. My name is Sabu Steve. I've been going by Sabu Steve on the internet since around 1994. I was one of the first columnists for Wrestling Online newsletter. I was an independent wrestler from 2007 to 2010 in Indiana and Kentucky as the Idaho Stud. I've been a wrestling fan since 1977, and I have done extensive research for the last 20 years trying to get all the results. Now, I've got results from many different places over the years. Some are easier to get, some are not so easy. At the end of the video, I would like to give a couple recommendations for certain websites that I have received quite a few and that I know fans like you would quite enjoy. The purpose of this is to do something on YouTube that hasn't necessarily been done. You can't just find it. This is an extensive research of pro wrestling history that I'm just going to read the cards of, and I'm going to go back in time to January 1970 and just start from there. And hopefully every week I can get a following, and I can continue to bring you just wrestling's history and tell you what results of the cards and what was just happened to be happening at that time. So, as this time machine moves on, I'll tell you more and more about myself. But right now, let's just go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with January 1st, 1970, and we're going to stop off with the NWF. So, let's see what happened in Cleveland, Ohio. According to this, the Masked Destroyer defeated Hurricane Hunt. Moose Cholak beat Bill Miller. Hans Schmidt beat Ali Baba. Haystack Calhoun defeated Crybaby George Cannon. Cuddles Anderson defeated Celine Fontaine in Ladies Action. The Jamaica Kid defeated French Lamont. We have Sherry Davis and Sherry Lane defeated Patty Drake and Mary Jane Mull. Hartford Reginald Love fought a no contest with the Mighty Igor and Moose Cholak. And Bulldog Brower won the NWF North American title from Johnny Powers that day. And for the main event on that card, the original Sheik beat Lord Athol Layton by disqualification. January 1st, 1970, in the Funk's territory, Amarillo, Texas. We're going to find out that Joe and Paula Duke beat Chief Little Eagle and Alex Perez. Dick Murdoch won the Brass Knuckles title from the Lawman. Tag team champions for the Western States would have been Terry Funk and Rocky Romero, and they defended their title against Gorgeous George Jr. and Dusty Rhodes. Western States champion The Beast defeated Killer Carl Cox by disqualification. And the main event for that card, NWA Heavyweight Champion Dory Funk Jr. retained his title against Rufus R. Jones. Traveling to, on January 1st, 1970, Jacksonville, Florida, as we check in with the Florida promotion, Eddie Graham. Florida Tag Team Champions Bronco Lubitsch and Chris Markoff went against Bob Orton and Sam Steamboat. I don't have the results for this card. I will just read the matches and see who was wrestling at that point. Florida champion Mr. Saito defended his title against Dick Steinborn. Jack and Lester Welch teamed up with Frankie Lane to take on Dante, Mephisto, and I guess their manager at the time, Sir Roger Mitchell. Hiro Matsuda took on Harry Smith. Bruiser Ben the Wrestling Bear went against Cisco Gramato and Kurt Von Stroheim. Thunderbolt Patterson took on Pepe Gomez. And Alberto Amesa faced Aldo Bagni. January 1st, 1970 in Honolulu, Hawaii. Johnny Barron and Ripper Collins defeated Shoshi Giant Baba and Seiji Sakaguchi. Danny Hodge drew Hawaiian champion at the time, Pampura Firpo. Pedro Morales fought up with a draw with Jack Bentz. And Tank Morgan defeated Bing Kai Lee. January 2nd, 1970, we're going to Tallahassee, Florida. As we've got Mephisto and Dante facing Danny Miller and Dick Steinborn. Bob Roop faced the Missouri Mauler. Carl Krauser went up against Bob Orton. And the Executioner took on Pepe Gomez. January 2nd, Rockford, Illinois. This is for the AWA promotion. Red Bastien and Billy Red Lyons, no contest with Dr. X and Larry the Axe Hennig. Bill Watts defeated Blackjack Lanza by disqualification. Pepper Gomez defeated Bruce Kirk. AWA Tag Team Champions Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon defeated Hank Meadows and Stan the Moose. Larry the Axe Hennig defeated Jim Vellon, and Bob Windham, who would later be much known as Blackjack Mulligan, defeated Buddy Smith. We move now on to January 3rd, 1970, as we stop off in Lakeland, Florida. Again, I don't have the results for these cards. We'll start out with, what was advertised was Bob Orton took on Mr. Saito. Bruiser Ben the Wrestling Bear had to take on Skull Von Stroheim. Thunderbolt Patterson took on Cisco Grimaldo. The Executioner took on Jack Welch. Aldo Bogny against Nick Adams. And Dr. Blood took on George Grant. We're now going to visit January 3rd, 1970, AWA TV at the times. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, I have Red Bastien and Billy Red Lyons took on defeated Kenny J and Kenny Yates. Dr. X defeated Johnny Polong. Pepper Gomez defeated Bruce Kirk. Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon, the AWA Tag Team Champions, beat Hank Meadows and Stan the Moose. Larry Hennig beat Jim Vallon. And AWA Champion Vern Gagne defeated George Gadaski. And the last match on this will be Blackjack Lanza defeating Jose Betancourt. So now I got that glare. Trying to do what I can to get that out of the way so much. Alright, so another AWA card as we're going to go January 3rd, 1970 in Milwaukee. As AWA Tag Team Champions Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon defeated Red Bastien and Billy Red Lyons. The Crusher defeated Luke Graham. Dr. X beat Joe Scarpello. Blackjack Blanza defeated Bob Windham, which you'll notice they must have been doing a major program at this time because you'll see a lot of results against the two, which kind of funny, as everybody would know, they become the Blackjacks more famous as tag team. And Lars Anderson defeated Buddy Smith. So let's go on to the WWA, which pretty much was the AWA at the point anyways. So we're going to go to January 3rd, 1970 in Chicago, as AWA champion Vern Gagne defended his title against Bill Watts. Jack and Jim Dillinger took on Moose Cholak and Wilbur Snyder. Baron von Roschka took on Larry the Axe Hennig, beat Larry the Axe Hennig. Pepper Gomez defeated Angelo Poffo. Luis Martinez defeated Jack Pisek. And Jim Vallon defeated Ken Russell. Alright, we got a Worldwide Wrestling Federation card from Hubbard, Ohio. An interesting place for that. And this is going to take place on January 3rd, 1970. I don't have results for the card. I just had the lineup. Which George Animal Steelwood took on Frank Holtz. Baron Mikhail Skaluna would have took on Batman. The Sicilians, which, if anybody knows, would have been the tag team of Tony Altomare and Captain Louis Albano, as they faced Dominic DeNucci and Johnny DeFazio. And heavyweight champion, WWF champion, Bruno Sammartino defended the title against Killer Kowalski. Alright, so we now move on to an AWA show in St. Paul, Minnesota on January 4th, 1970. We have Pepper Gomez defeating Dr. X. Crusher defeated Butcher Vachon. Red Bastien and Billy Red Lyons defeated Lars Anderson and Larry the Axe Hennig by disqualification. Blackjack Lanza defeated Bob Windham. And Luke Graham defeated Buddy Smith. Alright, so I've got a next card is January 5th, 1970 from West Palm Beach, Florida. And we're going to have Cyclone Negro and Thunderbolt Patterson defeated Florida Tag Team Champions Bronco Lubitsch and Chris Markoff by disqualification. The Missouri Mauler defeated Bob Orton Sr. Jack Welch defeated Eduardo Perez. Louis Tilley defeated Duke Kiyomoka, and Aldo Bogni defeated Cisco Grimaldi. Alright, so back to the Western States, the Amarillo Territory on January 5th, 1970. We're going to go to El Paso, Texas. Mr. Wrestling, who at that time was Gordon Nelson. Don't confuse him with Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods in the Amarillo Territory, so their Mr. Wrestling was Gordon Nelson. He defeated Joe LeDuc. Western States Champion The Beast fought a draw with Rufus R. Jones. Dick Murdoch defeated Joey Kozak. And out of a 2 out of 3 falls match, Gory Guerrero teamed up with Ricky Romero to defeat Gorgeous George Jr. and Alex Perez. And of course, Gory Guerrero is the father of the infamous Chavo, Hector, Mondo, and Eddie Guerrero. Alrighty, so January 5th, 1970, we're going to go to Big Time Wrestling, which was the early days of World Class Championship Wrestling. And we have a card here from Fort Worth, Texas. So Wahoo McDaniel defeated Gary Hart. Killer Carl Cox defeated Grizzly Smith, the father of Jake Roberts. Boris Malenko defeated Tony Gonzalez. Antonio Puglisi defeated Charles Montague. I don't know exactly if I pronounced that name right. I'm sorry if it didn't. And The Spoiler defeated Tony Gonzalez. We're moving on now to January 6th, 1970 in wrestling history. And we're going to start with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation card in Lewiston, Maine. As Gene Dubois teamed up with Gorilla Monsoon, and they faced the team of Ivan Koloff and Waldo Von Erich. Mario Milano faced Professor Toru Tanaka, and Victor Rivera would have faced Killer Kowalski. We now move on to January 6, 1970 in Tampa, Florida. As we have a title change to start things off, we have Danny Miller winning the Florida Brass Knuckles title from the Missouri Mauler. We have Jack Briscoe and Cyclone Negro teaming up to win the Florida Tag Team titles from Bronco Lubitsch and Chris Markoff. Pretty big card here with 2 title changes. And to finish up the card, Mr. Saito would have defeated Bob Orton Sr. by disqualification. Dante and Mephisto beat Sam Steamboat and Thunderbolt Patterson. Bob Roop defeated Aldo Bogni. And Bobo Johnson defeated Buddy Colt. Alright, so back to Big Time Wrestling on January 6, 1970 in Dallas, Texas. We start off with Texas champion Johnny Valentine fought a draw with Wahoo McDaniel. Tony Gonzalez defeated Gary Hart. Antonio Puglisi and Grizzly Smith defeated Carl Cox and The Spoiler. Boris Malenko defeated Tiger Conway, and Nick Kozak defeated Charles Montague. Alright, So here we go. I got 4 more cards here, so we're going to move on to January 7th, 1970 in wrestling history with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in Salisbury, Maryland, as Arnold Skaaland would have faced Willie Farkas. Mario Milano would have faced Eric the Red. Professor Toru Tanaka would have faced Danny Little Bear. Karl Kovac would have faced Gene Dubois. Ivan Koloff would have teamed with Waldo Von Erich to face Victor Rivera and Gorilla Monsoon. And WWF champion Bruno Sammartino would have defended his title against Killer Kowalski. January 7th, 1970, in Miami Beach, Florida. Jack Briscoe, who was a sub for Dory Dixon, would have faced Mr. Saito. Missouri Mauler would have faced Cyclone Negro. Chris Markoff and Bronco Lubitsch, who had just lost the titles, would have been faced in a regular match with Jack Briscoe and Bob Roop. Bruiser Ben the Wrestling Bear makes another appearance as he would have faced a handicap match with Eduardo Perez and Cisco Grimaldo. Aldo Bogny took on Louis Tillet. Bob Orton Sr. took on Skull von Stroheim. Nick Adams took on Thunderbolt Patterson. Alright, January 7th, 1970, Lubbock, Texas. So we're back to the Western States territory. We have a draw between Bobby Duncombe, who fought a draw with Billy Spears. In a masked versus masked match, Mr. Wrestling, who guards Gordon Nelson, defeated Inferno X. Now, in further results, he's still going as Inferno X, so I have no result of any mask being taken off at this point. Western States Tag Team Champions Terry Funk and Ricky Romero defeated Dick Murdoch and Gorgeous George Jr. Rufus R. Jones defeated the Western States Champion The Beast by disqualification. And in a 2 out of 3 falls match, NWA Champion Dory Funk Jr. defeated Dusty Rhodes. So there's Dusty Rhodes getting a title shot in 1970. One more card to finish off this week. I had the January 7th, 1970 card from Honolulu, Hawaii. We have Bill Francis teaming up with Bing Kai Lee and Pedro Morales to defeat Jack Bentz, Ripper Collins, and Tank Morgan. Johnny Barron defeated Seiji Sakaguchi. Jack Bentz fought a draw with Don Carson. And Pampero Firpo defeated Congo-zan. And of course, Pampero Firpo would have been the Hawaiian champion at the time. Alright, so there is January 1st through January 7th, 1970. I'm going to try to do a podcast every single Sunday. So next week I will concentrate on January 8th through the 14th. Some of the sites that I need to talk about that I have borrowed over the years, and these sites are very important because you can still find a lot of results on these sites. Now, some of the results I have over the years come from sites that have long past that been taken down, and I have been given permission over the years from several different sources to keep this, and it's a 20-year process that I have kept all these results. Now, first of all, you got to give credit to Graham Cawthorn's history of WWE.com. Any WWE results all the way back that I talk about, what it came through there. Also, they keep a very good match history on Ring of Honor, as well as Jim Crockett Promotions, ECW, several different promotions. They have complete listings there. Also, I need to give credit to www.kayfabe Memories, which is their bulletin board, is the best community, in my opinion, of all the wrestling fans and chances to actually talk to actual wrestlers and everything else. And there is no better historical content that's on the web, in my opinion, than www.kayfabe Memories. Now, once again, who knows where this site's going to go. Right now it's pretty crappy quality, just doing it on my phone and trying to bring you wrestling history as I can, just because it's not available in a format quite like this, and it's my way of trying to reach out to the wrestling world and see where my journey goes as well. Again, I've been a wrestling fan since 1977. I have a great amount of respect for this sport, and this is what it's all about for me, the love of this sport of professional wrestling. I'm totally old school, grew up a heel fan, and until next Sunday, thank you very much. I hope to see you next week with with a very interesting episode as always. Thank you. I'm Sabu Steve Dolgash.